Hello everyone, and welcome to my home kitchen. That's right, this is my kitchen. That's the way my refrigerator looks. And you might even hear one of my cats begging for attention here and then. On cue. Come here, you. This is Charlie, and she likes to think that when I'm in the kitchen, it means it's wet food time for her. Which is not the case. Isn't she fluffy? She's also part Maine Coon cat, so she's absolutely huge and she can get very loud. So today, I'm in my kitchen to show you how to make bismuth crystals at home. So bismuth is a hard metal. You can get pure bismuth off of Amazon, or at least relatively good quality. I do believe this was 99% pure bismuth. Off of Amazon, I got a pound for, I do believe, $10. It's been a while, and this has been in my collection of things for approximately 3 years now, waiting for the right time to do something with it. Honestly, I can't even remember why I got it, other than it's a metal and I wanted to put it in my periodic set. And today, we are going to be turning this into this. Or at least we're going to try. I have done many tutorials on this a few times, and we're going to have some fun. So, you can do this on a stove, but I do not have a stainless steel pan that I'm willing to destroy because I have one and I use it for sauces. Instead, I'm going to be using my trusty hot plate that I bought for $35 from Mr. Medic on eBay. A stainless steel crucible that I got off of Amazon. This is a 100 ml one. I do believe it was $27. You can use a fork, or you can use a stainless steel stirrer. I'm going to be using this. Pull out the crystals. I have two of just kind of cheap pliers that I'm going to also be using. But first things first, let's talk safety. Alright, safety. As in its natural state, as a metal like this, it is harmless. You can touch it. I wouldn't recommend licking it simply because it's a metal, but if you do, it's not a problem. When you melt it, however, which is what we're going to be doing here, it will release some fumes. Bismuth oxide. It is not suggested that you lean over them and inhale them like you would necessarily an essential oil or anything of that nature. Honestly, I wouldn't recommend doing that with anything except for maybe chocolate cake. Because, let's face it, chocolate cake. The other thing is that if you were to grind it, the fine powder can get into your lungs and it's an inhalation hazard. We're not grinding it here, we're not shattering it, we're just going to put it into the stainless steel crucible, turn the heat on, and allow it to melt. The melting point, I've got my MSDS sheet here. For those of you who are not aware what MSDS stands for, it is Material Safety Data Sheet, and in recent years they started just leaving off the material and calling them safety data sheets. Any chemical, any metals, any kind of element you can Google, put that in your favorite search engine, and look for it with just name, MSDS sheet, name, SDS, and it will come right up. So this says that in case of inhalation, remove to fresh air. If you ingest it, which, please don't drink molten metal. Let's just say I think you'll have a few more things to worry about than the bismuth if you do that. Don't induce vomiting, but seek medical attention. And I do believe they mean that if you're inhaling the dust from it, that you would do this. Skin, if it gets on your skin, like you melt on your skin, seek a burn specialist. Go to the doctor. Otherwise, just holding it like this, not a problem. If you're going to be rubbing the dust in your skin, it will cause an irritation. Same as would a washcloth, linen, or anything else that you would violently rub into your skin. I hope you don't put this in your eyes, but if you do, flush it out. This is kind of a common thing. Anything you get in your eye that's not supposed to be there, you flush out. Firefighting. We're going to put it on heat. It will melt. If you were to have a lot of dust and it would accumulate on a fire, it might cause a problem. If that's the case, then you extinguish it. The MSDS sheet says that they have not noted anything that is inappropriate for it, so you can put kitty litter on it, which is what we do in the lab if anything catches on fire. You can put sodium bicarbonate, aka baking soda, on it, though I would prefer baking powder. It has more of a dampening effect. You can also douse it with water and it should be fine. Handling and storage just says avoid creating dust because that's where all the problems come from. Now, you've got physical properties. These you can look up, but for our purposes, we know that it's going to melt at 271.3 Celsius. Boiling point is 1,560 plus or minus 5 degrees Celsius. That's pretty much all we need to know here. All the rest of it you can look up if you ever want to mess around with more bismuth. This experiment, I'm probably going to pause the video, move it closer so you can see what's actually going on in the container, and it'll look more vlog style. So, till then, in the container, turning it on. I know from experience that my hot plate reaches about 250 on 6, so I'm going to put it at 6 and then move it down and wait. Every time I've done this before, it has taken about 20 minutes. So, I'll be back. Turn vlog style with a laser thermometer that reads in Celsius and Fahrenheit. So, it is on Celsius, and I'm about to show you what the beryllium bismuth is doing. It's at the first stages of melting, and as you can see, absolutely nothing is going on. There's no fumes, there's no anything happening. So in a few more minutes, we'll take a look as soon as it starts melting. It's only been a few minutes, and you'll have to forgive me standing on my toes, which makes me unstable, but I am short. 275 when pointed at the bismuth, right about there. So it should be melting soon. When you point it at that, it is 309, unstable because I'm moving her in a bit. Fahrenheit, that is and on top of the bismuth, we have time to waste, but as you can see, not really much going on in there just yet. Gonna give it a few more minutes and see how it looks. Might tweak the temperature to go up just a little bit if needs be. We are approximately 12 minutes in, and I want to show you something. Keep an eye on this right in here. That right there. When I push on this, you can see it's starting to bubble and melt. Now it means there's only a few minutes left until it turns into a wondrous silver puddle of bismuth. And then we can start mining for crystals, which will be interesting to do, considering is that it will take 3 or 4 hands to be able to do this with, but you'll see. As you can see, it's working quite well. We have quite a bit of liquid down here in the bottom. This is still quite hard, but we're getting there. We're getting there so quickly, in fact, that I've got to set up my tripod and end this vlog style method of showing you this, because my tripod is my 3rd and 4th hand that'll hold the camera while I do the chemistry. This tripod view should give you a nice little overview of what's going on inside. Granted, I can't keep the camera on for long, otherwise it will overheat while it's over top of this. But as you can see, this is oxidizing over here as it touches the air. It'll give you some nice coloration to your crystals. And this needs some time to melt still. So with that, camera off and away from the heat. As luck would have it, as soon as I started taking out the crystals, my camera overheated, and I now have to describe in hindsight. Because once you start cooling your bismuth down, it takes a bit of work and concentration to get everything out. And of course, I didn't notice it. So, when you are cooling it down, after you've turned off the heat, start taking your spatula or fork and gently move aside that oxidized top layer that's kind of like a skin. As you do, you will see some crystals starting to form. As you can see, some of them here left over on this. You can see these bumps. And you can see some of the crystalline structures that have frozen in here. Those I could not get out soon enough, so of course they're there in situ, which makes for a beautiful paperweight, by the way. As you do, you pull out all of the bits and pieces. Now, here's some examples of some more interesting things. These two little chunks right here were taken out with a spatula. Once it cools completely, because it's stainless steel, you can just pull it right off. It takes a marginal amount of effort, but even a child can do it, so even your toddlers can help out after it cools down. This, of course, came off of a fork, which makes some interesting honeycomb structures, but not the gems we're looking for. Here's some gems that we were actually looking for, and as you can tell, the structures are actually quite small. Nothing like the beautiful ones that you find as museum pieces. For that, you need both a very large vat to help cool things down, as well as give it space to grow, and a very, very slow cooling time. Now, I'd like to show you a couple of experiments that we've done in the past, as well as some mistakes. So, all of these pieces back here, what look like shrapnel, these are pieces that have come from using the spatula, the pliers, or pulling them out with a spoon or fork or whatever we had around. And they just kind of came out as chunks. So it kind of looks dirty. I don't know if you'd be able to use these for anything, but maybe you can if you're a little bit creative. We plan on using them in the bed of a kind of a stone fairy garden type of thing, just to kind of give things a little bit of a shine and have some fun with it. I'll probably do the same thing with those structures as well, because they're interesting, but they're not the crystals like those. But these things we plan on using as paperweights. So this one here, I'm going to put an inset of a still of it as it's in my hand. It actually weighs a few ounces, so it's nice and hefty, and it looks really, really pretty. And then, of course, we've got this. This was created when our first experiments were going on, and we would pour the melted bismuth into a clay pot, a mini clay pot, and then as it cooled, we would pour it back out again. So we ended up with this hollowed out structure as we were trying to make a geode full of the bismuth crystals. And as you can see, we've only got a few that adhered to the sides. So it's interesting, and we're thinking about also using this in the fairy gardens as well. If you've enjoyed this, I hope you do try making your own bismuth crystals, and let me know how it goes. So far, the keys of making a successful bismuth crystal has been to let it cool very slowly, have a larger type container. So if you have a stainless steel pot that you're not worried about using, and you don't mind getting it a bit dirty and you'll never use it again for food, go ahead and use it and see if you can get some bigger crystals. Otherwise, enjoy the tiny little crystals that you can get out of there, the probable mistakes, and the leftovers that you might be able to use as a really pretty paperweight, or if you're into beading, you can do something with beaded things around it, and you can make it into something interesting. And feel free to share what kind of other cool shapes that you end up getting.